Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool Asteroids arcade repair video for you today. Joe, where did you get this Asteroids?
Got this from our buddy Troy.
Uh-huh.
He called.
Troy called, yep.
He wanted to know if I wanted to buy an Asteroids.
Yep.
I said, yes, I do.
Mm-hmm.
He said he couldn't fix it.
And this is the one.
This is the one.
Okay.
He said he couldn't fix it, but he thought for sure that you could fix it very easily.
Oh, man, Troy, you jinxed me.
So.
Well, we'll have to see what we can do. What's wrong with it, Joe?
It's broke.
It's broke, okay. So what are we looking at first?
Good news is it looks pretty clean.
It's very clean. Troy keeps some nice stuff. Troy's the man. So it's pretty clean. Yeah, that looks good. Look at the bottom, Joe.
It's got a new big blue.
The big blue capacitor has been replaced by Troy with the big black capacitor.
Yep.
Which is good. So that's the first thing that usually goes wrong. The fuse blocks all look good too.
Yep, looks clean.
Very clean looking little game.
Clean,
is that a
clean.
Screwdriver bit down in there, or is that something else? I guess that's just some...
It's just dirt.
Dirt. Okay.
Oh, ain't that thing in the anode? Isn't that the... Nope. Yeah. What's that high voltage thing?
Troy, we know why it's broke, buddy. Your high voltage diode fell out of your monitor. He probably swapped it, and that's the old one. Okay, so it's broke. Doesn't work.
Broke.
So we're going to test it out. So the first thing we're going to do, it looks like he had the boards repaired too. Man, I'll bet this thing was already up and running.
I think he was telling me something.
He was operating it, right?
Yeah, he was telling me something of maybe the high voltage unit in the monitor.
Okay. All right, so the power comes into this power brick down here, which has already been serviced. So you see they've got a brand new big blue on there, there's a big black. So now there's not too much to do in there. There's either a couple diodes or a bridge rectifier underneath it, but it's one of those things that you need to do something about every 40 years or so. You know, you need to check to see if the fuses are the right value. So we'll check that, and then the power goes up here to this regulator board. These things are really reliable, so I don't know. That might be the problem, but they've probably swapped a new one in whenever they had problems. They probably just swapped another one in because a lot of those are pretty... you don't even have to replace the caps on them. I have it under good authority. But we need to check that to make sure we're getting a good 5 volts to the power board. But I think Troy was telling us that there's something going on with the monitor, actually. So I think what we'll do is we'll unplug the monitor first. On this particular one, there's a big plug here. We'll just unplug it. Go ahead, Joe. All right. So the reason we did that is because if the board is sending out a bad signal or something, it can fry stuff on the monitor, and the monitor is kind of the trickiest part to fix. It's even got a multi-game kit in it, Joe, or a high score. No, that's a multi-game kit. There's too much on it.
Well, it's top of the line.
This is top of the line stuff here, Troy. All right, so we'll see. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and turn it on. Usually you would turn it on without the board plugged in to see if you get 5 volts or not. But I think we're going to run into a situation where the monitor has a problem and the game is up and running. So we'll plug it up, and we'll make sure to check the voltage here in a bit. But all right, Joe, are you ready?
Yep.
So the monitor's unplugged. We definitely don't want to fry anything with that coming on. Nothing. Power switch. So the red LED is on the board. The lights are on the coin door. Are you getting the fast blinking, Joey?
Looks like it's on free play. It's got one.
Okay. I thought I heard something where it was beeping or something. Okay, yeah, when it's blinking at that speed, that's like the normal, like, press start blink. Go ahead and press start, Joe. It may have a screen up that's saying, pick this, pick that. tricky whenever you can't see them and you can't hear them.
Yep.
That ain't good.
Well, I noticed.
What we're trying to do is, if we can hear the game running, then we know that there's probably a problem with the monitor, or, you know. Joey noticed something, he said.
Well, the test switch is unhooked. The credit test switch is unhooked.
I think usually those are, though. I've seen that before. It's because they put the one on the coin door. Wait a minute. I can hear it. Turn it up. If you listen, you'll hear it.
Yep.
That's good. Okay.
I have a bad volume pot.
Bad volume pot or sound amps, but that's no problem. We were just trying to see if the board is pretty much working. So it's up and running. So there still may be graphic problems with it, but it's going to be stuff that's minor enough that the board still will run. So that was our first thing. So the guy just died, and now it's went back to doing the. It's basically blinking. The second one should be blinking too, so it might be the LEDs burn out or a wire's in the wrong spot or something. We'll figure that out. Okay, so the thing is up and running. Let's check the 5 volts, Joe, just to make sure. And then we'll check the other voltages on it too, and then we'll plug in the monitor. Okay, so the board has 5.25 on the actual board. It's a little bit high, but I think I'm going to leave it. What do you think, Joe?
Good enough for me.
Maybe we'll turn it down just slightly, since this is definitely on tape.
After you get done, we can turn it back up.
Yeah. So everything runs off 5 volts, but it's pretty common that people want it you want it a little bit high because you might get some that are marginal, and maybe something happens and it drops down to 4.9 and something resets or whatever. So a little bit higher than 5, but lower than 5.2. That's what we kind of go for. Okay. So that's that. There's also some other voltages here. Let's see what we got.
What was your name? Okay. I'll set it aside for you.
All right. We're going to check some stuff. Get ready, folks. Get ready, folks. There's our 15 volts. That's made from our 24 volts. This is tough to do with one hand. There's our negative 15, which is made from our negative 24. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to find, does it have a 12? I can't remember if it has a 12. I thought that was always down on the other end. Yeah, I don't think it does because it amplifies the audio on the other thing. Okay, so it looks like we've got our 24 and our negative 24 and our 15 and our negative 15. The way you can check that is these little transistors here are the voltage regulators. So one leg will be ground, one leg will be the 24 volts, and one leg will be the 15 volts, and then one leg of the other one will be ground, one leg will be negative 24, and one leg will be negative 15. So you can get your voltages on the legs of those chips. I've got the ground just hooked to the ground lug over there. So on the board we have all of our voltages, unless I'm forgetting one. That middle one is another 5 volt regulator that I guess works for just the DACs here in the X and Y output. So that's that. So there's a little high score saves, or maybe Braze multi-game. I think that's a Braze, I believe. Little multi-game board or high score save board or something over there. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But it looks to me like the voltages are fine on this. So we're going to go ahead and turn the monitor on and see what happens. Okay, so we turn the game back off, and we're going to go ahead and plug the monitor back up. Go ahead, Joe. We're pretty confident that we have the correct voltages at least. We don't know, though, about the X and Y out. That could be a problem. And now we're going to turn it on and just see what's going on with the monitor. You can kind of tell by listening to it. It's got vector chatter. Do you hear the little, like, kind of high voltage sound? I mean, not high voltage sound, but like clicking sound. And hear how it just changed? It's because the screen changed. Turn down the music, Jason. Maybe they can hear it better. I'm trying to show you exactly what I'm talking about. If you listen, you can hear. Now listen real close to the hum. It's like. Keep listening. Yeah. Hear how it's different now? It's because the screen changed. So what's that mean? It means the deflection board is at least trying to work. But if you look, there's no neck glow. I thought I was getting electro killed. There's no neck glow, so the neck is not lighting up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, folks, so here is the schematics. The heater voltage is this little loop right here on the back of the tube. And you can see that one of them is just a ground, and the other one is a voltage from P506. And if you look at where that comes from, comes from over here, heater out, going up to the neck board, and then there's a heater ground, which is basically connected to ground through a resistor. But they come in, the ground comes in through this plug, and the voltage comes in through this plug. So it comes from the bottom of the cabinet. That's actually the same voltage that makes the coin door lights work. And we already saw that. So the voltage is there, but I'm hoping maybe this resistor or this resistor is messed up on the board, or there's some kind of bad connection. But it's coming off of the deflection board. So we're going to check to make sure that we don't have the voltage going out to the neck board. It should be missing. And then we'll pull the board out and see if we've got bad solder or something somewhere. So this is the deflection board from inside of it. This is the 12-pin connector that we unplugged earlier and been plugged back in to get it to come on. This is the only connection from the bottom from the cabinet to the game, right? So the power and everything comes in here, does its thing. Also the signals, the video signals. And then you have these two connections run to transistors that are mounted on the game board, on the chassis. This is the yoke connector, and then this connector is the connector that runs over to the high voltage unit and then also runs to the neck board. So we're not getting any filament neck glow, which usually you get even if the monitor's messed up. So I'm trying to figure it out. So the two wires coming from the bottom are the blue and white wire, and they connect to this gray and this brown wire. So the two wires running up have 6.9 volts on them. It says 6.3 in the manual, but it's not regulated. It's just the AC voltage. And so they're there. They are there. And then whenever it leaves there, you've got a gray wire and a brown wire. They run over to here. Checking with my multimeter, there is connectivity through the wire to the board. Okay. And then these are the two wires here. One of them runs up here and then runs through that resistor and then goes out pin 10 to the neck board. The other one comes in here and is directly connected to pin 9. Okay. So that resistor tests fine, like there's nothing wrong with it. So I don't see a problem here. But what I'm going to do is, it doesn't look like this has been serviced in a while. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to reflow all of the solder on all of the connectors, but it's already been done by somebody. All right, I'm just going to make sure all that's good. And then I'm going to replace this big cap here, the 47-160, because I don't know if it ever has been. That's it there, C504. Or maybe it has, but it was a long time ago. And then there are some minor capacitors there I can swap to while I'm at it, but I don't think that will have anything to do with our problem, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it while I have the board out. Everything seems to be working, though, at least chatter-wise, and the fuses aren't blown, so hopefully we're good. But I'll swap those caps, resolder the connectors, and then we'll pop it back in and see what else we can find. There may be a problem up on the neck board or something. Okay, so we've got it back in the cabinet. You can see it a little easier. The blue and the white wires come up. That's where our 6 volts is. Then it turns into the brown and the gray. Comes over to the board here. And then goes to the brown and the black here, which go out to the neck board, which on this one I was saying it might be something on the neck board. I wasn't even thinking, on these XYs there really isn't even a neck board, it's just a little socket. On the color vector ones there's a bigger board, but so there can't really be too much there unless one of these wires just came out of its socket or something. So we're going to turn it on and see if we're getting any neck glow yet. We are. See it? That's what we were looking for. We still may be missing our high voltage though. Let's go look at the front. We're back up and running. We weren't missing our high voltage. We were just missing the neck glow. So it must have just been a bad solder on that connector. So we'll wait and turn the lights down a little bit and we can mess with it a little bit more. Alright folks, if you look close, that flickering, that's the camera, but if there's an intensity thing too where it gets brighter and then darker. You might not be able to see it, but basically it's getting brighter and darker, which is probably something in the high voltage cage, because you know, if the caps were really old on the deflection board, they're probably really old on the high voltage board too. Look at the high score somebody's got on this. Holy moly. Somebody put the moves on it. Okay, so I'm going to pull the high voltage board out, the cage, and then we'll look at that. Alright, so this is the high voltage unit. It sits in there, kind of like that, something like that. And this connects to the anode on the tube, of course. And they're real sticky a lot of times because this rubber is 40 years old, so it's breaking down. It's outgassing. So I'm going to take these off and we'll see if anybody's ever messed with it. Whenever you get this out, to take it off, there's 3 screws holding it to the left side of the frame, but once the frame's mounted in the game, it's kind of hard to get to them. But if you get one of these little things, it's like a little handheld ratchet. The reason this is better than a regular ratchet is because a regular ratchet, you don't have any pressure on the head of it, so you're trying to reach up in there and take the screw loose. You only got a little bit of room, so you can put a ratchet in there and turn it, but you can't really use the leverage of the lever of the ratchet, because you need to make sure at the top that this doesn't slip off the thing. So what you end up doing is holding the top of the ratchet and doing it, but the ratchet's only this wide, right? So if you get one of these, it just works a little better. Okay, so let me take this apart and we'll see what it looks like. So here's the inside. It looks like the caps have never been changed. 1979 or 78, they're still working. Or was it 80? 79 or 80. Still working. The flybacks in these are generally pretty good. Knock on plywood, knock on particle board. They don't fall apart that much. This is the high voltage diode that we found in the bottom of the cabinet, but it was still one in there too, so Troy must have replaced it at some point. Right? I'm going to save this one. Don't tell them I got an extra one now. I'll save my $10. Yeah, so that was swapped out at some point. Sometimes these boots deteriorate. If the thing's still working though, I just leave it alone. That might have something to do with the brightness thing that I saw, but I think it's more likely these caps. So it's still connected well. Everything's in there good. I ain't going to touch it. We're going to leave it alone. Sometimes you have to take it apart though and clean inside those sockets, but I'm going to leave it alone. I'm going to replace the caps. There's a couple diodes down there that burn up sometimes too and start being leaky, but looks cool. I can't tell. I don't think anything's been replaced. That might be a cold solder joint though. See D902 there? See the solder around that pin right in the center of the screen? That don't look right. What do you think? I don't know. We're going to reflow it for real. Okay, so I'm going to swap the caps. But it's a working monitor, so I hate to replace a bunch of stuff, you know. Okay, so we swapped the caps. And the diodes I'm going to leave. I resoldered them, but I'm going to leave them. Some people upgrade those, so you may want to do that on yours. Mine's been working for 40 years, though. I can't bring myself to do it, people. For me to believe that it's worth upgrading those, the damn things would have had to blow up way before 40 years. That's a long time ago. They're still working. That's like taking Grandpa's keys away. I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm putting this back together. We'll put it back in the machine and see if it still works. Okay, people, we are back up again. It's still doing the little brightness thing, though, but it's not blooming. So if it blooms, like the picture actually gets bigger. If you have that problem, usually it's that high voltage diode that we were looking at, the little stick thing. But like just there, it just got brighter. I think a lot of times that, if that's not caps, like a voltage is changing, then it's going to be probably the actual potentiometer on the board, the deflection board that does brightness or contrast. See how it's, you can see it's moving. So we'll probably try spraying some contact cleaner on those pots first, and if that doesn't do it, we'll try swapping them. Okay, folks, the contact cleaner didn't clean up the pots, so I replaced them. So the brightness one was 100,000 ohms, and the contrast one was 500 ohms. Or I may have that reversed. Order both of them. One of them was 500 ohms, and one of them was 100,000 ohms. But I did them one at a time, so we're good. Alright, so I'm going to put it back in the machine, and we'll see if that fixed our brightness and contrast problem. I also sprayed contact cleaner on the potentiometer, or it's really like a, well, it's a big high amperage potentiometer. It looks like a rheostat, but I don't believe it is because it has 3 lugs. And if it has 3 lugs, I think that's a pot. If it has 2 lugs, that's a rheostat. But I sprayed contact cleaner on it, and it does turn it up and down, but it's not amplified very loud. So that could be a power supply problem or a board problem. But first we'll focus on this and see if we get the brightness thing figured out. Okay, folks, we put it into test mode so we can watch it a little bit, and I am going to try to adjust the picture out. You see how small it is? It needs to be wider, and it needs to be taller. The adjustments for that are actually on the game board. It's the signal that the game board sends out. So we're going to try to make the X wider, the X, which would be left to right, wider, and the Y, which would be top to bottom, wider. I don't have a mirror. Let me go see if I got a mirror. Oh snap, I found one. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can adjust any of that out. Should be able to. Let me look and see which adjustment's which first. X gain and Y gain, that ought to do it. Let's roll with our X first. I can't completely tell. You don't necessarily have to go all the way to the edge. I think it says in the manual you want to be within an inch or something like that. But you do what you think's best. Maybe a little more X and a little more Y. Let's do a little more. I like that pretty good. And we're off to the side, but if you look at it straight on, it's pretty square. Now the lines that are kind of curved in the middle there, you can adjust that a little bit too. There's a couple of adjustments on the actual deflection board, but it's pretty close already, so I think I'm going to just leave it alone. I can see it just a little bit pulsing with the push start blinking. All of that stuff that you're seeing on the camera of the stuff rolling through the screen, that's you can't see that here in person. And where you just saw the asteroid disappear on the left is because it was behind the piece of cardboard. Everything looks pretty cool. So basically the actual asteroid should be a little dim, and then the shots and the ships should be bright, really bright. So you don't want everything to be really bright. And again, it's hard to film a vector monitor with a camera like this. You're not really seeing it the way we see it here in person. All that flickering and everything is just the refresh getting caught by the camera. Your eye doesn't catch it. So it looks real nice, and what the hell happened there? I think it killed the UFO as soon as it came on the screen. So if you look at the edge of the screen when the asteroids disappear, you can see where the edge of the image is. It's almost at the edge. So you can adjust that just however you prefer whenever you mess with yours. All right, so we've got a couple other problems here with the game. The one LED not working, and the sound is the potentiometer, I believe. But let's we'll test play it. See the little dot, how you can barely see it, so I need to adjust it just a little bit darker. So the sound works, and I can hear it, but I can't, it's not really amplified because I can hear the thrust a little bit too. It may be the amplifiers are a problem, but I know for a fact that at least the volume pot is messed up. It kind of fell apart a little bit. So I think what I want to do first is check the resistance on the pot. And if I can get it fairly low, I'll see what it's supposed to be. And if I can get it fairly low, we'll focus on I don't really hear the thrust. So it could be a power supply issue, the regulator board, or it could be the actual game board, the preamp on the game board. I didn't quite get around far enough. Let's see, I got 3,600 points, and the guy with the high score has 3,502,000. So I didn't quite get up to where he's at. Dio's a bad man, I can tell you that. Don't try to get in some kind of rock fight with Dio. He's going to win.